And there we are. We're live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Anchor Point Podcast on a live edition this St. Patrick's Day 2023. We've got some special announcements and updates, and we want to hear about all of the news on Capitol Hill, and what better people to have in this conversation than the people that are implementing this change and kind of directing that change. It's pretty awesome. So we have Grassroots Wildland Firefighters and the National Federation of Federal Employees. You've probably seen them around the social media channels quite often, and you've probably seen all the things that they've been doing. But it's a very important cause, and they have some news to share with everybody today. And first off, I'd like to introduce Max from NFFE. Take it away, bud.
Hey, how's it going? Max Alonso. I'm with National Federation of Federal Employees. I'm one of the business reps here. Kind of took the lead on a lot of the land management stuff, a lot of Forest Service stuff, BLM, and the other departments. When I came on, I really wanted to focus. When I came on 3 years ago with NFFE, I really wanted to focus on wildland fire issues. I spent my career with the Forest Service, and I saw these issues for a lot of years. That's where I'm at. Randy Irwin is our president. He has been extremely supportive of all of the stuff that we've been wanting to do. He's been hitting the hill himself, talking to people, working on things. We've got a great coalition. I'm going to let it go to Randy now.
Thanks, Max. And hi, everybody. Just want to thank Anchor Point Podcast for bringing us on. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Stoked to have you guys.
Yeah. And Grassroots Wildland Firefighters just do tremendous work. We're so happy and proud to have you guys as partners and doing all we can to better the lives of wildland firefighters. I'm the national president of NFFE, and I'm really proud of the work that we do. We represent 10,000 wildland firefighters across the country, mainly in the Forest Service, but a little bit in a few other agencies as well. Last year was a kind of defining year. Really exciting what we accomplished. What a tremendous group effort. And it really was kind of landmark, getting, a tremendous increase in pay, first of all, which is kind of first and foremost what we hear the most about, and what leads to so many other problems with wildland firefighters. And but as everybody knows, the great provisions that we got in that stimulus package there, a couple of years back, it was only for 2 years. And so, we are actually in the final year already. Boy, how fast time flies. And, we got a really, really big job ahead of us. So, I mean, for us, this is the highest priority that we have, as a union. We wildland firefighters are our bread and butter. And we have a great opportunity to kind of lock in these changes that we got on a temporary basis, and we're life changing. And now we gotta get them permanent. And there's a long list of other things that we got to get done on top of that. But, I'm really excited because, there really is such a tremendous movement happening here. I mean, I feel it. I see it every day. And, that movement of wildland firefighters standing up and demanding that they see changes, that need to happen. We all know what they are. It really is incredible. And so, I think we have kind of broken through the minutia, sometimes it's hard to get people's attention in Washington. And, I think we've been able to do that. And so now we've got their ear. And, I'm really proud to say that that's a bipartisan thing. I think with the administration heard us, and they did a lot last year, particularly in letting those pay raises go nationwide instead of just kind of focusing on a few areas and other areas getting screwed. That would have been terrible. So they really listened to us. And, I've been, I'm a little bit connected in Washington. I kind of got to meet the president the other day. When the president's budget came out the other day, I got a one-on-one briefing from Secretary Vilsack to go through all the pieces that were impacting wildland firefighter. But the thing is, this administration is proud of what they've been able to accomplish on wildland fire. They consider it one of their crowning achievements. And that's great, because if they're really happy about what happened last year and they think that's a feather in their cap, then they're more likely to do it again and to really push for it. So that's good. And then on Capitol Hill, we've got a truly bipartisan approach to what we're doing, which isn't really always the case, but last year we got standalone legislation passed unanimously in Congress, for 6 people under 6C that got injured on the job, that they didn't get their early retirement taken away. That was a big, heavy lift that took a couple decades, but we finally got it done last year, and we got it done unanimously, 407 votes to 0 in the House. That doesn't happen in this day and age. It doesn't happen. And so that's key, because that means that everybody really views what we're doing, what this movement is, and what it represents. It has complete bipartisan appeal. And so that's part of the battle. And that's a lot of things that other interests will not have, but we have, and we got to take advantage of. But we got a lot of important work to do this year. We got to keep this movement going. And we do not want to get to this cliff that's coming at the end of this fiscal year, and have people's pay fall back to what it was before. I can't, as disastrous as it was before the pay raise went up, I can't imagine how bad it would be if we get to that point and we have to go through that again, especially if we had to go through it for a year or more. So we really do have our work cut out for us this year. And I'm so glad we have you all as partners to make that happen. I really encourage everybody out there. We need every single person to get engaged in this fight. Hopefully join these organizations here, but also become engaged and get plugged in, because we got to have a strategy to get to every member of Congress and make sure that they're supporting the wildland firefighters. And if we do that, we'll have success. And all of this, everything in the president's budget, I think the president's budget is great for wildland firefighters. $568 billion in total in new spending for wildland firefighters. That's $57,000 per wildland firefighter. I'll say that again. That number comes out to $57,000 per wildland firefighter. And that's, locking in the pay, getting more boots on the ground, housing, portal to portal, mental health. And so, that's a really good package. That's not where it ends, because we got wildland firefighters have been ignored in Washington for decades, and you don't get all the way in 1 year, but this is one heck of a start. And so we got to go up to Capitol Hill and get this and continue to make the case for more and more. It'll be a multi-year effort, but this would be one heck of a start. So, but we need everybody involved in that fight, because it is a big, heavy lift. But if we do it, we'll be stronger, and we'll get some great things done, and there'll be no stopping us going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. And yeah, he brings up a good point there. The shut up and dig mentality is pretty much over, and it shows. And it's thanks to efforts through the boots on the ground, directly funneled upwards to the upper echelons of leadership through these 2 organizations right here, that being the NFFE, National Federation of Federal Employees, and Grassroots Wildland Firefighters. And I see We Move Mountains with Spoons over here in the chat box. And that name kind of alludes to what all of you have been doing on Capitol Hill. But moving on to introductions, Yvette, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, everybody. I'm Yvette Piacek. I'm also with NFFE. I am the Deputy General Counsel in NFFE's Office of General Counsel. I've been in the role for a little over 2 years now, although I've been a lawyer fighting for federal employees for over 15 years now. But since I've come to NFFE, I have really kind of dug into your wildland firefighters issues, and there's incredible work happening right now. Thank goodness we've had Grassroots Wildland Firefighters doing a lot of heavy lifting over the years, and we are happy to work alongside them and alongside all of you. What I view my role is, you all are the union. And I know some of you can't be in the union, or your forest isn't unionized yet. You should get unionized. But if if I am not speaking for the people I represent, which is Wildland Fire, then I'm not doing my job. And I love my job every day because I hear what you guys are going through, and we're making real change, and it's happening fast, and the stars are aligned. But I know it's because, so many people have put so much work into this, and we can make mountains move a whole lot faster with everybody coming together like you have this last year. I really do believe that people standing up for themselves has made a huge difference. And I'm really glad to be part of this team. That said, I'm new to Wildland Firefighter issues. So 2 years is a decent amount of time, but when I speak, I want to speak your language. So you all have to educate me. And I luckily I got a lot of great leaders out there, a lot of support within our union ranks. We got, Andy Vanderheuvel and Stephen Gutierrez, Mark Munoz, Aaron Kidwell. We just have really great folks out there. Hobie Miller. And they get it. I'm in regular, almost daily conversation with all of them. And that really helps us push through what we got to get pushed through, because I'm the one who has conversations with OPM about like the occupational series. And, through those conversations came to know that we got to get Randy to contact Secretary Vilsack to get them to process this pay. So I am kind of the master of relationships with the executive branch for NFFE, I'd say. And it's been, I think, great. A lot more work to do. But I need every single one of you out there to tell your stories, to amplify it, push stuff out on Instagram, do exactly what you're doing. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and there's going to be no stopping us. And poor Luke hasn't even had a chance to say hi to everybody yet. So let me pass it over to my brother, Luke.
Go take it away, Luke.
Hey, excuse me, and I apologize for my voice. I appreciate the opportunity, Brandon. My name is Luke Mayfield. I'm the current president of Grassroots Wildland Firefighters and one of the co-founders. When this started, a little over 3 years ago, the intent was to provide a platform that allowed for advocacy, self-advocacy, and cohesion across organizations. And I think that a great indicator of that happening is this call right now with NFFE on and Grassroots. And I think that we formed, like Max alluded to, a fantastic coalition amongst any and all parties. Grassroots is an advocate for advocacy. We don't care how it's done. We just want to see us cross the finish line and see the results at the end that allow for federal wildland firefighters to enter the career and exit as whole and healthy human beings as possible. And we know it's a difficult job. Grassroots is a huge supporter and advocate for congressional approval of the FY24 president's budget. We are extremely grateful of the budget proposal as provided. We also want clarification. And before we make an educated and informed push for the masses to advocate behind, there are points of clarification that we are seeking before we start disseminating that information. And
Well said.
I can go into those as allowed. And if anyone else has anything, I will hand it over. I guess I will say one thing. The fire family, the federal fire family is amazing. It's been my priority for a majority of my adult life, and the change that's happened since 2019 to right now through budget and infrastructure is historic. The FY24 proposal is historic, but we do want clarification.
That's a big thing. And like we were saying, all these people in this conversation, they've done a hell of a lot, and it's through the direction of the boots on the ground. So with that being said, let's try and get into some of the, I guess, finer things that we've been told and we've been briefed on from a congressional level, because the last thing I want to do is go into this conversation with some level of hearsay or speculation. I kind of want to try and remove that. I know the details are going to be inherently limited because we don't have all of the specifics, right? However, there's some big important movements happening on Capitol Hill, and it's directly going to affect the wildland firefighters on the ground. And that pay parity and classification and the retirement benefits, all that stuff is a huge thing. People have been fighting for this for as long as the Forest Service has been around. I mean, how many years has it been? 40, 50? I mean, obviously the Forest Service has been around longer than that, but ever since that pay gap and the, I guess, inflation outpacing the risks and the amount of risk that we take on is not measured anymore. So with that being said, what can we talk about? What can't we talk about? Is there any topics that you guys want to bring up right away and just kind of put out there on the floor?
I can go over what Grassroots is seeking clarification on directly, if that works for the NFFE representatives.
Works for
Go
me.
for it.
So again, we support the FY24 budget proposal. We're grateful. We recognize and are thankful for the agency leadership across the USDA and DOI for providing the inputs that have contributed to this proposal. What we are seeking clarification on and have asked directly.
You all right, buddy?
Yeah,
That cold's killing you, man.
yeah, it's a fantastic time in the life of me.
Oh, I just got over when I feel you.
We are asking for the exact pay tables that specifically show the pay rates from what we understand are a 36% increase at the GS3 level to a 1.5% increase at the GS15 level. We would like clarification or information available that compares this permanent pay table to the bill supplement that was $20,000 or 50% of annual salary, and the justifications or considerations that were used to create this 36% to 1.5% raise scale.
Copy that. Hey, Luke, if you mind if I interject real quick, that's just to clarify for the folks out there listening. That's the GS3 through GS15 level. Now, that's a sliding scale that goes up to GS15, right? And the GS15s would be on the lowest, the 1.5% raise, correct?
Yes, correct. Right now, a GS3, as we understand it from the releases that have come out, a GS3 would be receiving a 36% increase. GS15s are 1.5. So what does it look like in the middle, and what is the comparable or the justification for it as compared to budget and infrastructure that was $20,000 or 50% of?
That makes sense.
We would like further definition of the portal-to-portal premium pay. Is this a differential? Does this account for the hours of rest that are not coded as base pay or overtime? Is it classified as premium and or coded as a differential? Will it be available for local assignments and initial attack? And what is the criteria for people to secure portal to portal on their home unit while on local assignment, resource order, P code, and how will dispatchers secure portal to portal? The next point that we would like, well, we wouldn't necessarily like clarification on, but I think people will definitely need to be aware of, is that the implementation between DOI and the U.S. Forest Service or USDA is going to be different because of the impacts that are going to occur on positive education requirements. The Forest Service, as we understand it, has received an extension on the classification portion to December of 2023 to ensure that classification is investigated and pulled off as appropriately as possible, because it's got to be done right, and right takes time. So the extension is not a bad thing. We would like clarification of what we understand right now from the USDA, U.S. Forest Service approach is that classification is different than personnel management. Personnel management includes position description modernization. Does that happen with the extension, or is it still an intended effort that is going to happen after classification? And the last thing, and I think this is huge, a part of the FY24 budget appropriates $10 million per agency for year-over-year funding of comprehensive health and well-being program. That is necessary, needed, and mandatory for the well-being of our folks. But the root cause of the need for that, in my opinion and perspective, is the current workload and expectations that exist for the workforce. We strongly believe that the work to rest ratio needs to be investigated at a much larger level to include and look at fire seasons and fire careers, not just operational shifts and 16 on and 8 off. And we want to advocate, probably obviously across the board, for that investigation and a new work schedule that allows for the actual work-life balance and not the catchphrase work-life balance. And that's Grassroots. We support it. We support the agency's attempts, their intent. We are extremely grateful for the communication that we've had with the agencies. We see the budget proposal as imperative and historic. It needs to be approved by Congress intact with everything that's being asked for, but it's a step. And we need more steps, more advocacy, everyone at the table, and coalition amongst all organizations that are involved in this. And I really can't thank NFFE enough. It's been a pleasure getting to work with you, improve relationships, and get tattoos in Reno.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. ZZ Hop giving you the updates on Grassroots' point of view on these this pay and classification package, this budget proposal for fiscal year 24. And yeah, like Randy said earlier too, I mean, we're running into a wall here. We're going to run out. I mean, the fiscal year ends October for the federal budgets. Yep. So TikTok, that's this October is when they switch over to the fiscal year 24. So they better either stomp on the gas or figure something out, because I'm a little bit worried that it's not going to be implemented in time. So with that, what are your guys' perceptions of that on Capitol Hill? Do you have, obviously there's going to be some trepidation there, but what's your thoughts on it?
Personally, what's that? Go ahead, Randy.
We all have thoughts.
Are you talking about the timing of it? The timing of it?
Yeah, is this going to be like a slide into home plate at like the last possible second, score a goal, or are we looking at a rapid acceleration and getting this thing on the plate to fix the problems?
So one of two things happens. Sometimes there's some emergency spending or like a stimulus type thing. If there's a vehicle like that moves, then there's a good chance that I think we would be able to get something attached to kind of cover the gap. Because it is very, very unlikely that we're going to have appropriations bills passed under a normal timeline. There's continuing resolutions every year, and we're probably destined for more conflict in Washington this year than less. So I would not be optimistic. I mean, I think everybody has to be prepared for the high likelihood that even if we get this done, that there's going to be a period where you would get back pay in the new year once the budget gets passed. But there would be a point where the pay would kind of drop off and go to a lower level. I think that's highly likely, and that's just the process. And there's probably very little that we can do about that without some special vehicle to get it done in.
I was going to say, I mean, with that being said, Randy, even if there is that opportunity, we all need to get on board. We all need to be writing our congressmen. We all need to be getting on the Hill as much as possible and letting them know that this workforce is going to walk out the second their checks are lower. I mean, they're going to lose, even if they make promises. You know how many people are sick of promises, empty promises that they've had their whole career. That if they see their checks go down $700 a pay period, they're walking. They have better places to go.
Yeah.
Places that will take care of them. So we really need to get that, and it's not our jobs. I mean, it is, but it's everybody's. Everybody out there, everybody that's got fire boots on needs to be calling their rep. They need to be writing letters. They need to be getting involved with these organizations. They need to be part of this, and I can't stress that enough. I mean, we say it a lot, right? You got one person standing on the corner yelling, they look crazy. You got 1,000 people standing on there yelling. You got a movement. And
Max, I do think it's important that we manage expectations because some things are just not in our control. I mean, we're hard workers, but we're not miracle workers. And, I can't control, the conflict that occurs in Washington. I can try to manage it and operate within it, but I can't change it. And so if we've got those kind of macro factors working against us and there's no vehicle to get some kind of short-term reprieve to get us till that to next calendar year, say, or once those budget bills or appropriations get passed, so and I don't want everybody to get mad at our organizations when it's something we don't have any control over. I mean, we pulled a rabbit out of a hat to get this, pay increase, everything that was in that stimulus bill a couple years ago. And now we got a good chance, and I think we'll get it done, to make these things permanent and move the ball a little bit further down the field. But we can't create we can't do things that are just impossible. We're hard workers, but we're not miracle workers.
Definitely. I'm just saying, if we have that opportunity, that it always helps just to have everybody involved. Just get everybody involved.
Oh yeah.
And we've got about 5 months to make our case to Congress. We got to get through to these folks that have the power now that this proposed budget is out there. It's their responsibility. And so if all of us take this time over the next several months to share our stories, your stories are so compelling and really do grab people's attention. And I think if we can all move and contact Congress, we'll get their attention. And even if they have to, make some drastic compromise to pass a budget at the last minute, that's what we need them to do. And we need them to know that we're not going to cut this fire budget proposal money. That all has to stay. If anything, we'll double it, triple it. But
our heels are sunk in the ground.
This is not an area to compromise on. And so it's on all of us to relay that. And, NFFE, Grassroots, I think, Hotshots Association, we've been talking about how to strategize around this. And we're all in full support of the budget. And now it's just a pivot to mobilization. And we're going to be leading that together with all of our groups to get every single person in fire involved, to make the pay fix permanent before it lapses. Because like Munoz says in the chat, people will walk if it's not there. And we can't afford that. America can't afford that. Like, it's lives. So.
Absolutely. And that's a good thing about these two organizations here, the Grassroots and NFFE. The folks that can unionize, by all means, hit up your local rep and try and get that ball moving, because these guys are doing stuff on Capitol Hill that's pivotal to this whole cause, right? The people that can't, or the people that just want to support and support both functions at the same time, go hit up Grassroots at the same time. I mean, we're there. All of us are there. We're trying to get this ball across the finish line. That we're, third and goal, or whatever you want to call it, whatever stupid analogy you want to put out there, but it's there. But also I understand that a lot of people need to set their expectations realistically. Now, this stuff isn't going to be passed overnight, like you're all saying, but also it'd probably do some justice for the folks out there listening to this call to do some research into civics, right? Because not a lot of people know how the inner workings of Congress and congressional sessions and budgets and fiscal years and all that stuff works. So we got to navigate all of that stuff at the same time while trying to steer the direction of these bills. It's crazy.
So I'll just say real quick, the proposal is just the proposal. It's the baseline management formula for what they think they need. Congress always defers to that. They say, well, the agency told us this is what they want. Sure. So keep that in mind. We wanted all of this, and they reflected a lot of our advocacy in these numbers, and these are higher numbers than we've seen in a long time. But it's still management's proposal. And they had, from what I was told, they had to do a lot of arm wrestling in back rooms to even get some of this stuff. Sure. So, we have this time now, this spring and this summer, to put forth what we think the proposal should be. Obviously, this is great and we support it. This is the floor. And if we can, we'll try and squeeze out a little bit more, but it's just a proposal. So if this budget doesn't fit every single person, that's okay in a way, because we're going to have future budgets. We're going to have the master agreement too. The union is bargaining the master agreement that covers just about all Forest Service for us. And we're going to try and get a lot of good stuff for fire in there too. That's a way that we can try and work on issues that Congress can address, but management directly can. And so we just engage with them directly. I think that's all I wanted to say on that.
I would elaborate a little bit. And where I think this fight is going to be at is really when it boils down to it, it's the Republicans in the House of Representatives. That's where that's where the work needs to be done, because, on the Republican side of the aisle, there are a lot of calls for cuts in spending, austerity type measures, in fights that are, way above our head pay grades, some we have nothing to do with. And we can't change for that matter. But, at least on this issue, we need to separate what is being done with wildland fire from however they conceive of government spending, and that being a bad thing and wanting to limit it. We need them in their minds to separate wildland fire from that, and the way we do that is by, engaging them with their own constituents, at home, because there's so many people in Washington or organizations that they pretend they've got 100, all these thousands of people, hundreds of thousands. And the truth is, it's a paper tiger. They're not in touch with these people. They're not real. They can't talk to them or go meet them or engage them. And that's what's a little bit different about our organizations, is we actually do speak to them. We really do represent and have contact with people in these areas.
Yeah, you're bridging that gap between us and the upper echelons of government, essentially.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, both organizations, Grassroots and NFFE.
Yeah, absolutely. But we got to get to those Republican offices and on the House side and separate the bigger thing of government spending from what's happening with this. I mean, this is a tiny little sliver. You know what I mean? Like, there's a multi-trillion-dollar budget, and we're talking about a little $568 million. For this group, it's life-changing. And there's no reason why anybody on any side of the aisle shouldn't be in support of this. but that's where we have the work to do. And we got to do it soon because this ball starts to roll. They start in the House. They take up the budgets first. You got these subcommittees of the appropriations committees and stuff, and they start putting these budgets together and making decisions. And usually the ultimate decisions aren't made till much later on in the process. And lately they've been kind of bundling them all into these big, what they call omnibus appropriations bills and things like that. But you still got to do the work early on before the die becomes cast, and they kind of like are just hacking away at all the kind of what they consider big spending that the president's doing, and this being lumped in with that. So we got to get to them early and separate ourselves so that the Republicans in the House really view this as something that they need to support in the president's budget.
That and holding our ground too as just a community. I think that's going to be important. And there's a lot of tools out there. I know Grassroots, Luke, you could probably expand on this a little bit with some of the tools that we have that have basically preformed like letters of support that go to your senators or your representatives, mailboxes, inboxes, or their staffers. At least it's not like these people on Congressional Hill are reading their emails, but it's still going to their staffers and they're getting those messages. Luke, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we want to flood the system with a cohesive and unified approach across organizations and ensure folks are educated and moving in the same direction, north to south, not coming at it from east to west, while 70% of the movement is going north-south. Grassroots, once we have the clarification, we have the tools on our website via UJoin campaigns, and those will start being populated. And it's as simple as 5 to 6 clicks, and those go directly to your state representatives and federal representatives with the same distinct, cohesive message. Just to add on to what Randy and Max and Yvette have said, the beauty of this is there is bipartisan support. There is not bipartisan support across the board for all things that are going on right now in Congress.
Sure.
And some of that is out of our control. There's unforeseen obstacles that we are going to have to overcome. The way we overcome that is by coming together and spreading the word in a unified manner and all trying to reach that same end state. And we're doing that. We've been successful. Look at the change that's happened over the last since 2019. It's some of that shit. I spent 18 years with the Forest Service, and most of the time I sat on a hillside with my bitch buddy talking about what needed to happen. It's happening. It's awesome. It's not perfect. We have the ability to influence it. This is a proposal. We have the floor. We can make it right. We will tailor our campaigns. We will share those campaigns. Grassroots doesn't take any of the credit. The credit belongs to everybody, multiple organizations, and above and beyond that, the boots on the ground, the people putting Nomex pants on, 8-inch plus leather boots. I hope you don't stag your pants if you're out there. So, I mean, our job, Grassroots, from our perspective, we're going to arm everyone with the information necessary and the tools needed to easily and cohesively influence legislators to do the right thing. And that's the most important part of this shit. It's bipartisan and it is the right thing. For multiple decades, we have had extremely quiet professionals that have suffered in quiet and not said shit. Over this past short while, in reality, 3+ years, people aren't being quiet. People are speaking up. The best and the brightest within the agency and outside of the agencies are starting to paint the picture of what right looks like, and we have the right ears, and we have to continue that.
100%, man. Like you said, over the past 3 years, more has happened for the benefit of the wildland firefighting community than over the last arguably 50 years. So these movements do work.
Mhm.
Look at how much everybody has done out there. And that's not just including Grassroots and NFFE. That's every wildland firefighter out there who's tooting that horn, so to speak, or just amplifying voices. It's pretty incredible. But one thing at a time, right? So let's talk about we got the bipartisan infrastructure law passed, right? It's a law now, but that has a expiration date, like we're saying. Now, this new budget proposal, let's talk about some of the things that were proposed in it. Can we do that? I mean, there's not a lot of specifics we can talk about, but what are some of the things that were proposed in there? You mentioned portal to portal. We could start with that if you guys want to.
Hey, Brandon, I got to take off here.
No worries. Hey, Randy, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for all you guys do. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Randy.
Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy. See ya.
All right. Bye, Yvette.
All right, there we go. So back to the question. Do you guys feel comfortable to ask that? The portal to portal question. That's going to be one of those elephant in the room questions that I know a lot of people that are listening to this want to hear what was proposed. Now, this is not a guarantee of what's going to come out. So let me be explicitly clear about that. But what was proposed?
I have it in front of me if you want me to spiel it off, Max and Yvette.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this is just Forest Service, but I think in all respects, in relation to workforce, it's similar for DOI, what I'm about to spout off. Firefighter compensation reform in the president's budget, $180 million. The funding will allow the agency to implement a new pay structure for firefighters that includes a special pay rate salary table for all firefighters 1 through 15. Again, it's a sliding scale starting at 36%, going to 1.5%. We are seeking, because I saw a question in the comment box, clarification on what that is and what the justification is between that sliding scale and what Bill offered in the 20K to 50%. Included in this also is portal to portal pay for 24 hours while on fire assignment. We're still looking for clarification on the definition of portal to portal pay. Premium pay, differential, 50% of base. Does it occur for the 8 hours you're sleeping after 8 hours of base and 8 hours of overtime? The maintenance of hazard pay. So hazard pay will still exist. And I will say, because there's people that are poking holes in this already, we need the clarification, and we need the comparison between Bill and this. And then I do want to note that it might have been, I think it was less than 10 years ago. It might have been 13 years ago. OPM wrote a response to the USDA talking about, it had to do with pay raises. And at that time, OPM's stance in writing to a couple different senators was that a 4.5% raise for federal wildland firefighters was too expensive. So just think of that movement from a raise that potentially starts at 36%, and a decade ago, 4.5% with a bunch of quiet professionals that weren't talking was too expensive. So a lot has shifted. We're not saying it's right, but we need clarification to be able to explain it to folks. Increase in wildland fire management salary and expenses. 69 million will go towards the cost of living increase, which to my knowledge, I think is at 4.7%. And 259 million for firefighter capacity increase. allows for the potential to hire, if you can find the bodies, 970 more firefighters, and to include the use of hiring and retention incentives. This will allow the agency to continue the progress of creating a more full-time year-round workforce. And on that, I will go back to the point of clarification. We want work to rest definition expanded to include fire seasons and fire careers, not operational assignments. We do not want to see the attempt to squeeze more blood out of the same stone and come back to the same shit that we're at right now, where we're dealing with people that are broken, hurt, suicidal, alcoholic, depressed, facing mental health issues. We need that work-life balance, and flexibility is the root cause of many issues that are currently being faced from my perspective. Firefighter mental health and well-being. There was a down payment of, I believe, $120 million to stand up a joint comprehensive health and well-being program across agencies. Initially, they thought that the year-over-year cost to support that would be in the $4 to $5 million range. After investigating it, it's in the $20 million range. And again, credit goes to the agencies that have come together to push for this shit. Because the Forest Service is requesting 10 million, DOI 10 million to support this program on a year-over-year basis. It's needed, again, in my perspective, me as a person, not grassroots. This is the attempt to provide something after something's broke. We have to set up a system that sets people up for success, doesn't take care of them after they're broke. We still need it. It's imperative. Folks are hurting. Things are messed up. We've got to have this, but we also have to have a system that sets people up for success. And then firefighter housing, 50 million. We've been told that this funding will be protected, and the funding allows for urgent and necessary firefighter housing, facility maintenance, and repair. On the DOI side, I think it's 22 million, total of 77 million, to ensure that the rat-infested houses you live in have the opportunity to become rodent-free and livable.
Well, that's another thing too, Luke, is the deferment process with maintenance as well, right? Is that something that's going to be, as you said, it was going to be protected? So is that deferment, that deferred maintenance program, now that's going to be something that's not going to be able to be done anymore with this new proposal, correct?
Well, I can't speak to that. I am sure there are all sorts of gray areas and side doors to do whatever you want. But what we have been told with the money requested in the FY24 president's budget, the 50 million and 22 million respectively, is protected and will go towards housing improvements or the construction of housing.
Copy that.
And I have to say, because I don't think it gets said enough, people within the agency do want to see positive change for federal wildland firefighters. I know I spent a shitload of my career talking shit about the people that I thought were not doing anything. These people that we're speaking to in the fire and aviation management team, OWF, whoever it is, like, the effort is being put out there to provide true change. Like, this budget is an indicator of it. The housing, the acknowledgement, like, they're taking what NFFE has said, what Grassroots has said, the identified pillars, and they do have your back. But there's a lot of shit that goes into this. At the beginning of Grassroots, we thought we could stand up a website that educated people and provide a white paper about a paradigm shift. And bam, everybody was going to take that because it was a good idea and make shit happen. 4 years later, I am on a podcast with all of you amazing people.
And there's still barriers out there that we're
Yes, there
tripping
are.
across and trying to knock down. And yeah, it's going to take a lot more of this to make what we really need out there. And so I think I have the same slide as you, Luke. So thank you for going through the details. I just, if it's okay with everybody, I want to make a couple comments. So again, this is the budget proposal, right? They rolled this out, invited us to have a call to celebrate, like, look, we heard you, isn't this great? And we started Hobie immediately started asking some tough questions. All the questions that, Luke said at the beginning of this, that Grassroots has. NFFE has them too. And we started to ask some of them, and they just don't know yet. So, we are going to stay on them. We're going to see as time goes on what information they can share with us. One thing they told us was that they were going to put out a public release with the draft legislation that would implement this proposed budget language. They said it was supposed to come out on Monday. I haven't seen it yet, but that was supposed to include the actual salary table for the special base rate. And of course, dying to see that, right? As soon as that comes
There's
out.
a lot of people out there dying to see that document, I can tell you that.
Yep. So as soon as it's in my grubby little paws, we will blast it. I'm sure you'll, through all of this network, we'll be able to comb through it with a fine-tooth comb and find out exactly what we need to know so that if it passes, that it's implemented appropriately. They royally screwed up how they issued the pay from the infrastructure bill. I hope that we can avoid those same hiccups just by having better communication, anticipating more than I think the people did last year when they were trying to figure out, or last year and a half, trying to figure out how to do the infrastructure pay bump. So, they didn't give us any specifics really that were worth relaying on that call last week. We don't have the special pay rate table. We don't have the draft legislation. The devil's going to be in those details, just like Luke said. And we are asking the same questions. We are hand in glove in this to find out, because they're your questions. They're the firefighters' questions.
And I believe, right, it's out of the agency hands. Am I correct, Yvette? And it's sitting with OMB right now that needs to vet, verify, go through their process and say yay or nay. Or
there's a lot of people involved to make sure that it's primarily the legislative folks, but there's some OMB wrangling that has to happen. They're the bean counters of the federal government, and they see these giant numbers and that haven't been in past budgets, and they really have to be convinced. So kudos to everybody in the administration that did that arm wrestling with the OMB just to get this proposal in the shape that it is. There's a lot of people that worked behind the scenes to get it this far.
Well, you bring up a very good topic right there, actually, going into the disconnect between these legislators and the boots on the ground is the legislators, they don't speak fire language. At the end of the day, they have never walked a single step the boots they're wearing on the ground there, the frontline people are wearing every day. So it's hard I can understand it being difficult to convey that message in a meaningful way that these congressional representatives would understand. Is that one of these challenges that you're facing?
The truth is that just a few years ago, they didn't know that this workforce was out there. That's the honest truth. The first time I went up on the Hill quite some years ago,
Jesus,
nobody knew who we were. They didn't know we were out there. We had to explain every time we sat in an office what we did, that we work for the federal government, and the issues that we see. So I think just recently, like I've said before, just the fact that people are, like Luke said, standing up and really taking ownership of their careers, and they're just kind of at the breaking point to where they're going to stand up and say something instead of being quiet professionals, has made the change. So, but it's still hard. I mean, we're still explaining, the the barriers that we have.
And it's not
You
just
gotta
the folks
look
on
at where people sit, you know, West Coast versus Midwest, East Coast. Like, I find it amazing the amount of just education that has taken place and needs to continue to take place. And I see Munoz, it's important for firefighters to get out there on the hill because they don't know. And we built a culture over decades of, if a reporter talks to you, tell them to go to your supervisor, go hide in the hills.
What we call the PIO.
Yeah, like, for better or worse, like, I love the idea of that, but what it's done is set up no knowledge of what it is that our federal folks sacrifice as fire seasons have transitioned to fire years, and the response areas have changed into communities burning down and protecting life and property more than a wilderness area fire with a couple folks doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Like, it is full on triage at a catastrophic level. And the Department of Defense has said that U.S. wildland fires are one of the biggest threats to the U.S. Now it's time to support the shit out of it and ensure that we are recruiting and retaining the best and brightest civilian operators that, in my opinion, exist in this country.
I second everything you said there, Luke.
No, it's arguably one of the largest professional firefighting organizations in the world. One of, at least, maybe not the, but yeah. I mean, why aren't we treated like professionals? And finally, over decades, and we're finally starting to get that ball rolling. So,
Only
as far
when you're dead or in August, up
right,
until now.
and that's for the people that are listening to this that don't understand that you're only a firefighter when you're in the ground, but you're just an unskilled laborer when you're working. Yeah, there's some gravity behind that cynicism there, and it's a lot of truth, and it sucks. But now we're actually getting treated like professionals, or starting to get treated like professionals, like a professional firefighting workforce. As far as some other things that are going to be big topics and kind of elephant in the room questions regarding this pay proposal, let's talk about dispatch. I know this is going to be the hard one. And have you guys heard anything about dispatchers being included in this?
I know that there was a summit held to discuss this further. There's been multiple efforts, I think, across the board, NFFE, Grassroots, and 1,000% dispatch is part of the fire family. And we are advocating for the inclusion of dispatch of all fire, regardless of the support mechanism, from training to dispatch to whatever, into all of this movement, the pay, the benefits, 6C, and potentially I've heard rumors that dispatch is going to be included, but fire needs to be included. It's a system. It's not just operators on the ground. It's the people that facilitate firefighters getting to the smoke report, the people that facilitate the training that people take on and take to move up the ladder. I mean, it's a system. It's not just people in the trucks getting to the incident. It's everyone supporting them to successfully get to the incident and walk away from the incident, or deal with something super shitty that happens on the incident.
Oh, absolutely, man. And that's another thing too, is like, I mean, when you're fighting a logistical thing, a logistical battle, which fire very much is, if you can't communicate, or if you can't move things logistically, well, you're not going to win that battle. Sorry. It's just no point. I mean, if you can't talk to dispatch, well, let's put it into context. If you're an IC5 or IC4, IC3, doesn't matter what level of IC you are, try and run a fire without dispatch. You can't do it. So absolutely, it's my opinion that they should be 100% included.
And when they first announced that dispatch was going to be not included, well, they didn't announce it. We pushed them on it, and they immediately were quizzical, like, "Oh, dispatch isn't in it." And then the person who made the decision did say that, well, the line had to be drawn somewhere. And so
what?
consistently on every single call, we have been pushing back that the line never should have been drawn there.
No,
And
absolutely
that's
not.
people that just don't get it. Drew a line. And so I see in Leslie's comments, we are optimistic that we're going to get dispatch in there at some point. I'm not sure how. And there's been no commitments, obviously, from the agency on it, but it's not a battle that we are yielding on at all. We've heard you all loud and clear.
Same with Grassroots. And I
Yeah.
will say we have consistently and regularly pushed for the inclusion of dispatch into this series. We may not have publicly done the best job of messaging that, but we have 100% of the time pushed for the inclusion of dispatch into this 0456.
Oh, absolutely. So, as far as any other hot button concerns that we've been hearing from the community and its relation to this this budget proposal, rather, what else are some other things, some other, I guess, details, if you have them, rough details? I mean, like we said earlier, this is not a guarantee. This is just what we've been briefed on. The documentation hasn't come out yet, so we don't have anything finite to go off of as proof. However, what about something like retirement? Like I know there was a lot of talk out there about retirement being included into your overtime being included into your retirement and your hazard pay. Now, I don't know if you heard anything about that, if you can confirm or deny any of that, but what's your opinion on that?
It's Grassroots direction to continue to advocate for the inclusion of hazard pay and or overtime towards retirement benefit calculations. And that's part of our direction moving forward, but it is not currently a part of anything on the table, but it is a direct focus area of Grassroots for 2023 until we see it happen. And hopefully my voice is back by then.
What about the NFFE
Same.
side of the house?
Absolutely. Same for NFFE. We're also pushing hard for the temp buyback this year. That actually
That's a
has a
huge
good shot of passing. But again, that's not, the agency doing, any sort of gifting. That's going to be Congress. So, but yeah, 100% overtime should be part of your high three. If it's okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health and then housing.
Yeah, take it
too.
away.
All right, cool, thanks. Mental health. I mean, Luke said it earlier. We're on the same page with respect to that. The infrastructure bill had put quite a bit of change toward that initiative, and so from the NFFE side of the house, we pushed hard to have what is basically a pre-decisional type early involvement and a seat at the table to build that program. They, after several months of me pretty forcefully asking, they said, sure, we'll put NFFE on it. And then mysteriously, like, things didn't get scheduled. We weren't invited to meetings. So I don't know if there is a fully baked program out there on mental health that we're going to be learning about in the next few months. What I do know is that we're going to have, we've been invited, and Grassroots luckily has to a summit that's coming up with quite a few stakeholders in April that's solely about mental health. So NFFE is going to participate in that. We will be sending one person at least. We'll try and get more. But ultimately, what we want to do is, negotiate this program at the bargaining table wherever possible to supplement. The money is huge, but it matters how it's being used. And like Luke said, we're concerned that it seems to be dealing with the problems after they arise. We want to see a whole lot more for prevention And that overlaps with, other issues that we're going to be bargaining in the master agreement, in the fire article, schedules, and time off, and R&R, all of that. And it patches into work-life balance. This is a budget that works great for a lot of our younger, less senior firefighters, but folks that are mid-career, I think we're going to have to work a lot of more benefits through the master agreement for a lot of those folks. And that's NFFE's bailiwick right there. That's not Congress.
I'll just say on the comprehensive health and well-being program, for my perspective, and I wish we had one of the subcommittee members for the comprehensive health and well-being, pillar 2 for Grassroots. They have put some of the best people that I could ever hope for in charge of building these programs, but it does take time to build these programs, and they have fantastic people in place within the agencies. They're maintaining dialogue, inviting the right people to the, like the April 14th meeting. But it's not going to be perfect right away, but I think that federal employees should be pleased with the folks that have been put in charge of building this foundation of comprehensive health and well-being. And I am extremely pleased with that process and this effort that is going on. And I think there's a lot to figure out, learn, and be able to spread the word on.
Yeah, I think the foundation is there. The devil again is in the details. So
That we're building the plane as we're flying it.
Oh my God, seriously. So on the housing stuff, there was a question about, we asked in our initial meeting, is that going to be only to catch up on deferred maintenance? Fun fact, I guess there's $250 million backed up in deferred maintenance.
Oh,
so
shit.
We got 50. That's a fifth of what we need. And my understanding is that is going to be pretty much for maintenance, not for new construction, which is not what we've been pushing for. I mean, we want maintenance, but there's some of these buildings that just need to be raised.
Oh yeah, I've lived in them.
Yeah. So like a year and a half ago, I was at the NFFE training center in Southern Maryland with a bunch of wildland firefighters who came for their first steward training. And we were just, kicking back after class, drinking beers, and they were telling me about the rats and the leaky roofs and the busted pipes. And I was like,
mold.
Holy cow, this is how you guys are living? Mm-mm. And so that kind of, settled with me, and we started knowing that we were going to go into contract bargaining this year. I started researching it and started picking apart what our possibilities might be to fix this. And this $50 million, Max told me to not be humble. So I'll just say it, like, NFFE got this $50 million. So we had asked for OPM's help with the housing issues. And I started asking for conversations with people at OMB on housing last year. We finally got this discussion with the right person at OMB about a month ago. And I told them your stories, what I heard when we were sitting drinking beers. And I said, this is hurting our ability not just to retain, but also to recruit. And we need this money. And she heard us, and she was able, that was perfect timing, because she was able to take our survey results that all of you provided, some of my legal research. She went and talked about it with their Office of General Counsel, and she was able to make the sell to her higher ups to slide this $50 million in at the last minute for Forest Service. So that was no easy get, but we did it. And it was thanks in large part to, all of you responding to that survey and helping me get the most compelling stories to get through to these people who came to this call with like prepared comments ready to just like blow me off. And I really was kind of bothered by that. And we got 50 mil. So this is great, but it's really not enough either.
No, not even
and
close.
I know it's not. It's not.
It's something though. I mean, small steps, right?
More than what we would have had, honestly. So I'm happy with it. And we represent folks in Park Service too. We got them involved too, and I made sure that we shouted out the Interior when we were having that discussion.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I guess go ahead. Oh, I was gonna just queue up the next question, but go ahead. So you can go ahead first, man.
No, I was just gonna say, never mind. Go ahead. Lost my train of thought. We're good.
No
right?
worries. So
you.
I guess with all these other things that are been implemented in this budget proposal, now I guess the last elephant in the room that's kind of a hot button topic now that I think about it, because I forgot about it earlier and kind of brought myself back to it. Sorry, ADHD brain. Wage grade. So with the pay and classification that's attached to this proposal, where are we looking with the wage grade folks? Because we need those dozers out there. We need all those wage grade folks in the field, and they are very much a part of us of the wildland firefighting workforce, just as much as dispatchers, just as much as the hotshots, just as much as everybody else who's operational. So where do they stand in this whole thing? If we can answer that.
I don't know any intel on that one. It's something that our leaders have asked in our phone calls. Absolutely. But we just don't have those details yet. So I don't know, Lucas, have you heard anything?
I mean, we're pushing for it in the same form and fashion that we push for dispatch. And what we have been told is that the pay raises and the benefits aren't necessarily tied to the series and the classification, and that the considerations are there and will be potentially available for folks outside. So wage grade, and I thought I saw, and militia. A lot of these pay provisions are being at least proposed in a manner that are going to benefit folks inside of fire, outside of fire, wage grade, but we need clarification, and I'm with Yvette on that. It's another point that needs clarification.
That's one of those things too. I think that this conversation, it can't happen behind closed doors on Capitol Hill. It has to include the boots on the ground and all forms of that. Everybody needs to be represented. If they're going to roll out something, everybody needs a say in what they need, right? Because this isn't just a one, operational federal wildland firefighter thing. It's many other tertiary and quaternary things. So the more people that we can get raising a stink about it and emailing their representatives or making calls or whatever, the better. I mean, joining Grassroots, joining NFFE, joining both of them. I mean, that's going to be pivotal to our success and your success for the boots on the ground that are listening to this. So
100%.
it's up to us. It's up to us. Well,
Yeah,
I'm getting to. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna kind of add to that. I try to explain to people that we're able to get on the Hill. We're able to talk to our representatives and the administration and make those relationships. But none of this happens without everybody. I mean, our organizations are nothing but a tool, right? And if nobody's going to pick up that tool and learn how to use it, then not a lot's going to get done. But if you get a whole lot of people picking up a lot of tools, you can cut a lot of line, you can get a lot of work done. And that's really what it's all about, getting everybody involved. I can't stress it enough. Everybody has to be their own advocate. Sure, we're going to be your advocates also, but you have to be part of this. You have to step up. You have to write letters, be part of one of these organizations or both, or start your own. I don't care. Whatever you got to do, but make things happen. I've spent a lot of years sitting around bitching also. And I finally realized, if you're going to eat, you got to go get some food. So nobody's going to do it for you.
That, and you can't present a problem without a possible solution, right?
So
interesting thing to tie into what you're saying there, as far as like third party, like people that really don't have any skin in this federal game, right? This pay, classification, retirement, all the mental health stuff.
They do.
I'm talking exactly, and that's the thing too that I think it gets oftentimes overlooked. Like we have community supporters from outside of the federal agencies, like CAL FIRE. So, for instance, CAL FIRE. I know a lot of CAL FIRE folks and municipal departments support these pieces of legislation, but who are some of those other organizations that are supporting us directly? Maybe not maybe indirectly, like promoting our cause, not necessarily like in a financial context, but yeah, who are some of those folks out there?
There's some smaller organizations that are just supporting wildland firefighters in general, I think, and I think a lot of us know them. We could go through a list of names, but I mean, personally, people that have reached out to me are smaller organizations like Rip and Lips, Hotshot Up. Those community organizations are really important because they bring the people around them to one place, and that empowers people to get involved right there. So it gives us the opportunity to go speak to a lot of people in one place and get people involved. So I think those are really important, but I think we really need to look at a bigger picture, like you were saying. I mean, everybody in this country should really have some sort of investment in this. I mean, we're living. Yeah. Where does our water come from, right? I mean, our water comes from it's our natural resources, our forests. These cities are supplied with water by our forests. If we don't have firefighters protecting our forests, we're not going to have water. I mean, that's just the basics, right? The towns, we have towns burning up because we don't have enough skilled wildland firefighters up there. It's not just unskilled labor. We know that. And I think it's time for all of us to stand up and explain to people what we actually do, or not what I do anymore, but what they actually do. So.
Yeah, but that's another thing too, is like we've all been there and done that. We've done a little bit of time in the field for my particular context, but the rest of everybody else out there who's part of Grassroots and NFFE, they're still even active. I mean, that's huge.
Well, and I just want to add, to Max's sentiment, we have two competing objectives, that have come from the 10-year wildland fire strategy and multiple other publications, but there's the proactive need for true hazardous fuels removal and a prescribed fire workforce and a workforce that is managing land. And we have the immediate need of a robust, flexible, and fluid suppression workforce. Right now, the expectation is that your robust, flexible, and fluid suppression resource becomes year-round to complete two competing objectives. There's not enough time in the year.
Yep.
We need to advocate for the land management side and for the suppression side, and they need to be not separate, but the priorities need to be inverse of each other, where you've got your suppression operators who are training to operate and deal with the worst case scenario. And then you've got people that are in place to be the farm system for the suppression workforce and land management leadership and workforce, and start completing this shit, because our firefighters are burned out. And they're going to continue to be burned out until we have defined the capacity needed to compete, to accurately put the right amount of boots on the ground to simultaneously meet objectives.
100%, man. It's like two sides of Velcro, the hook and loop side, and that's your fire program overall and its land management goals. You can't separate them or else it doesn't work, right? So
Love that metaphor.
go ahead and take that one. Go ahead and steal that one.
I like metaphors.
So, well, listen, guys, I got about 10 minutes left on my time before I got to jump off. But if you guys are cool with it, I can go back through some comments and read a couple and see if we can answer them to the best of our abilities. So
I see one on PDs.
let's take it away. Let's see, which one was that? That was Adam in the comments here.
At least at least Adam.
Yeah. There's a couple of them. So that's this first one I saw with PDs in there. So let's talk, Adam. As a group to discuss new PDs, many coworkers and I are concerned about they will be used as an opportunity to add duties. So adding to the burnout factor and not meet the original intent of accurately reflecting our duties.
Yeah, so this one, where do I start?
That's a big one.
Yeah, we had great, really smart, some of my favorite people that I work with in this community involved in reviewing those position description drafts and pointing out, where they fell short. We asked for more time. We got more time. Everybody in the higher levels, like Luke said, within the agency, but also at OPM, they want to get this right. It's hard to get it right. They're dusting off this old 456 rather than building something from scratch. And so, but they can't just copy and paste. And I think that that's what they thought they were going to be able to do. And
well, they couldn't do that in the first place because the game has changed from 40 years ago when these PDs were originally written.
But they didn't know that until we started telling them, you're leaving this out. This is not a may perform. This is a grade controlling duty that you should include. And so be it if it results in an upgrade. We need to have people paid for their work that they're actually doing. So
we need the pipeline for upward mobility as well.
Exactly. So, we have been told that the career ladder progression is being incorporated in this. So that's huge. We still have major concerns about whether all of the grade controlling duties are actually going to be included. Last I heard is we are going to be shown Grassroots too, and I'm hoping that we can get together and coordinate on in our review of the position descriptions when they come out again, and do a joint comment on where it falls short still. Certainly if Grassroots isn't approached and we are, I'm gonna call you, Luke, and we're gonna coordinate because this is too important. We just need all voices and all eyeballs to make sure we get this right. What would be an absolute shame is after all this work, if they come out with a series that still doesn't cut it. What a waste. I do feel like this is our chance to get a good series, and I'm angling to, I don't even know if it's me per se, but I think the reality is if we get a series that is accurate, you all will be paid more because of the work that you already are doing, and you deserve credit for it. You need to have that in your, credentials. And it's just not happening yet. So stay tuned on that. Hopefully, within the next month or two, I'll have more to report out through our various source communication methods. I know that our leaders have been pretty good about getting sort of the latest and greatest out on Instagram and Twitter. And so watch there for whatever I have to share. That's how it comes out.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of ties into the next question that I'm going to ask as well, to just follow up with the comparisons between the BIL, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and this new pay budget and pay scale in the budget proposal. Now, a lot of people out there, I know they're really pissed that OT does not apply to that 50% or $20,000 cap, right? I don't know. Let's try and explain this sliding scale a little bit more finitely to where we can kind of say, hey, that 36% at the GS3 level, and it's stretched out across, this sliding scale up to GS15, right? Now, since that 50% bonus of your base was not included into your OT rate, this one would be, right? Because it is a base pay thing.
Yeah, it's a.
I don't know how to really put that into context better. I'm sure someone else could.
It's a pay table that'll be permanent, and it'll be permanent. But what is the comparable to what Bill offered? And what are the considerations that were included in this graduated scale from 36% to 1.5%? And what is the justification from not saying Bill was 50% or 20K? Why wasn't that automatically built into this new special pay table? And we don't know. Like, that's what we're asking for clarification of. And what are the benefits? It accounts to overtime and hazard pay. It accounts towards retirement calculations. It potentially reduces the amount of overtime hours needed on a yearly basis to make ends meet and to pay mortgages, etc. Like, there's a lot of pros that from my perspective, I could spout off. But what I can say is we've asked for clarification and what was used to come up with 36% to 1.5 on that GS15 top end level. And then it's a proposal. So what inputs can we provide back to be like, yeah, you're not wrong, but this is right. And this is what we want to see. But until I know that, I can't come at folks and say, yeah, or no, or kind of, sort of. But I can say at face value, I support the shit out of the FY24 budget, and I'm grateful as shit of the administration's work to get this in a proposal. But we still have the opportunity and the chance to vet, verify, field test, and say, yeah, you're right here, but this is where you're wrong, and this is what we want to see.
So we still have the opportunity to fine tune it and dial it into where it's what right should look like, right?
For sure.
Got to organize, advocate, and get the community together to get this message across, regardless of how you get it across. It does not matter to me. I'm an advocate for advocacy. Join NFFE, go to the Grassroots website, do whatever it is that floats your boat, and come together. Cohesive. We got to be together. And we got to push this shit as a community and as a fire family. And we can no longer be quiet professionals. It is time to make this shit happen.
Oh, absolutely. That, and getting third-party support as well. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell the people that are not in fire, tell Cal Fire, tell municipal departments, tell all your buddies to go support the shit out of this, because we can't do it without them either.
I want to see an army of moms get involved.
Oh, yeah. So listen up, kids. Tell your mom what it's really like on the line and see how pissed she gets. Yeah.
Don't mess with moms.
No. All right. Well, I mean, that pretty much covers, I think, all of the comments, except for we had one last one about contracting. I don't know if it helps, but contracting is required to pay $15 an hour as the first year, $16.50 plus $4.80 an hour for health benefits, and a max of 56 hours of paid time off. I don't know if we can really go into the contracting side because I don't know a damn thing about it. And yeah, I mean, I do know that I can say that a rising tide will raise all ships, and I'm sure there will be fallout benefits for the contractors, for the state departments, for the municipal departments, the people that are kind of the have-nots. If we get this across the line, then now all those other people that are trying to get the same benefits, well, guess what? You have a playbook for it now. I wish I could answer your question, man, but could you guys speak on that or at all?
Contracting. Sorry, go ahead, Max.
I was just going to say, if you're a contract firefighter at this point, and and we get all of this stuff done, come on over to the feds. We need retention. We need a workforce. You've got the skills. If it looks better over here, hopefully it does. Come on over.
And our goal long term, we think all of these jobs should be federal jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And equivalent across the board. I know that it is more expensive for the taxpayer to pay a contractor through contracted workforce than by just having them be feds. So contracting is tough because we need contractors. Absolutely, we need that help. But we also want as many people in the cover of federal service as possible. So right now we're worried that the agency might be contracting out a little bit more than what we really think is needed, and we're worried about losing those FTE slots. It's tough. This is inherently governmental work at the end of the day. And
I don't think you're going to remove the contractors though from the other sides of that argument though. Maybe I don't think you can personally. And I'm not just talking about federal lands. I'm talking about like your state projects, your private projects, your infrastructure projects. There's still going to be tons and shitloads of work out there because it's all accomplishing the same goal of hazardous fuels reduction, right? But
define capacity and then see where the tools can best be used.
Yeah.
Once you define capacity, then I think we know how to best use contractors, and they're a fantastic resource and they're not going away. But if we don't define capacity and create systems that adequately and accurately use people for the best purpose that they're available for, then we're going to be at the same fucking spot we are right now.
Exactly.
Define capacity, please.
Yeah, you need something quantifiable there.
I'm not talking to anyone on this call, but it has been described as the elephant in the room. So I want to know the capacity required for a fluid, flexible, and healthy federal firefighting suppression workforce, along with the capacity needed to provide for land management and hazardous fuels reduction across tools in the toolbox.
I love it. That was a good answer.
Yeah, nailed it.
And then I guess last but not least, because I got a jam here pretty soon. I know you guys got a jam too. But Leslie asked a great question right here. Let's take that, not the hire the contractor part. Let's turn that into the federal context, right? The 37.5 cap. Now, what's the progress with that? Is there any language whatsoever about that? Because I kind of want to say that that's kind of a bullshit rule.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a workaround, but I don't know how well it's used or accessed. The Land Management Workforce Flexibility Act that should allow for the hiring of folks after the age of 37 into permanent positions. But there's complexities involved in that I don't have expertise to answer. I think the option is there, and we should take anyone that wants to come to work.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree, Luke, and I believe with the LMWFA, the Land Management Workforce Flexibility Act, it's how much time you have with the federal government as a temp employee that can count towards that. I don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. But yeah, if you're a contractor and trying to come in after 37, I just have to agree with you, Luke. We should be taking anybody that knows how to do the work, that wants to work.
Oh yeah. Those expertise and skills are very perishable over time. The longer you're out of the game, the faster they deteriorate. So get them in. Yeah.
Well, and stay tuned. I mean, I know everyone is concentrating on what's currently here, but we also have to be looking at what's 3 years ahead, what's 5 years ahead, and what right looks like and how we're going to get there. We can poke holes at anything we want, but right now this shit is historic. It has not happened. It is amazing. Mm-hmm. We got to push for it and advocate for it, and then we got to move on to the next division.
Oh yeah, our work is definitely far from completed.
And if anybody's going to be in Washington D.C. on April 12th and wants to meet up with us, we're all going to be getting together to speak about this to some congressional folks.
Is that going to be televised by any chance or streamed anywhere?
I don't know. You going to be there?
Yeah, let me pack my bags and all my equipment here.
Well, I think there will be some media coverage, but I'm not sure who exactly.
Yeah, we're trying to get as many NFFE wildland firefighters into Washington D.C. here. Grassroots is going to be there as well. We aligned our schedules intentionally to make this first run at Congress before things start catching fire out there this summer. But it's going to be a sustained campaign. We have another NFFE legislative week in June, the week of Juneteenth, June 19th. Where we're also going to make another big push with lots of meetings. So those of you that are interested, get plugged in either for our April 10th through 12th event. Locals are supposed to be considering whether their finances allow them to send, one wildland firefighter from each local is our goal to get to town April 10th through 12th. And then same for June, we need as many boots as we can get here to share those stories. Not to mention, I just want to meet everybody finally instead of just getting the emails or the texts. So
you don't have to wear your boots though.
I'm looking forward to hitting the hill with you, Luke.
Yeah, it'll be good. And I hate to do it, but I got to get out of here.
Same
Yeah,
here.
I got a jam too. So
we can talk for hours.
This is a big topic. So, I mean, there's a lot of complexities and nuances to it. So, but Luke, Yvette, Max, thank you guys for being on the show and kind of like giving us an update from actual congressional leaders and being that bridge between that upper echelon of, leadership and government and the boots on the ground. Everybody appreciates it. And you guys are doing a hell of a job. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Max and Yvette. I'm personally just trying to keep up. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Thank you so much.
And if Steve-O's out there, I'll still beat your ass up a hill.
Ooh, challenge. There we go. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in on another episode of the Anchor Point podcast. We'll see what happens when this legislation comes out. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you. Till next time.
See ya.